Okay, we're going live.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We're together on this third anniversary of the abortion referendum. We remember all the lives lost through abortion and recommit to working to rebuild a culture of life in Ireland. Over 1,000 people plus have registered today to take part in this event, and it is being streamed live on multiple platforms, including Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Over the next half hour, as well as remembering unborn babies whose lives have been ended, we will look to the future with hope and listen to thoughts and perspectives from around the country to encourage us in the next phase of our efforts. So please sit back and relax, and we'll get started with the first series of video clips from pro-life supporters around the country.
The 25th of May 2018 will sadly go down in history as a day when the strong passed judgment on the weak by voting for abortion. But thankfully, the story doesn't end there. The efforts we make and the resilience we show can lead to a brighter day when everyone, born and unborn, is once again welcomed in life and protected in law. That's my hope on today's anniversary.
The anniversary of the abortion referendum is a sad time for certain. So many people over the last 3 years have lost lives, so much abortion regret, and so much healing really needs to occur. After the referendum, the pro-life movement could easily have just fallen apart, but instead we've galvanized, we've grown stronger, and we really are coming together, and I really do think there's a lot of hope for the future. The pro-life movement has so many young people realising the dignity of human life and striving for better for everyone involved, better for women, men and the unborn, because they deserve better.
It's been 3 years now since abortion was legalised in Ireland. This has led to a dramatic increase in abortions. The loss of life is a real tragedy, something that could have been avoided if women were given real help and support. Hopefully now Ireland can see that this isn't the answer, and we can go back to being a country that loves and protects its most vulnerable, the baby in the womb.
The womb has become the most dangerous place for a child instead of the safest. I just hope that people will realise they were fooled and change their minds in a future vote on whether we want to be for life or against it.
We need to fight for evidence-based medicine, not state medicine. Evidence-based medicine is about following best practice in order to heal and not cause harm. State medicine, on the other hand, is about ideology and nothing more. Our political leaders have embraced state medicine. We need to expose it for the lie that it is every chance we get.
It's great to hear all those different voices from around the country. We'll be showing more clips later. We were really blown away by the number of clips that people sent in to us. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to all of them in this half hour. However, we will be sharing all of the clips that will be aired tonight, along with all of the others that we couldn't fit in tonight on our social media platforms afterwards. So thank you so much for sending them in. It's an honour for me to introduce Bishop Kevin Doran, who recorded a short message earlier for us for this event.
It's lovely to be with you this evening. 3 years ago, pro-life people in Ireland were exhausted and discouraged. It seemed as if everything we had worked for had been destroyed and swept away. And that was a reasonable enough reaction, I suppose, just after a referendum. But there comes a time when we have to get back onto the road and begin the programme of recovery. And, we have learned that we can't afford to take the status quo for granted, but the same applies to the people who promote abortion. The status quo that we have today is going to change. Our objectives are clear. First of all, to support women and families who are in difficulty because of a pregnancy. And the second thing is to work towards the repeal of the abortion legislation. In spite of all the best efforts to restrict pro-life activities, there are still quite a number of organisations out there doing very valuable work to support and care for families and for women in crisis pregnancy. Organisations like Community Connect, Janacare, Every Life Counts, they need volunteers and they need material support, and this is something that we can all do. Then there are doctors and nurses, TDs and senators all across the country who have refused to be associated with abortion. And as frontline defenders of human rights, they have to know that they have our support and our encouragement. Legislative change will come, but it will take time and it will take patience. And the best way really to change people's laws is to begin by changing their hearts and changing their minds. Needless to say, I believe in the power of prayer, and I want to encourage people of faith everywhere to be regular and committed in giving thanks to God for the gift of life and in praying for a real conversion of heart for ourselves and for our society. And I think really with God's help, we can do this, we really can do it.
Many thanks to Bishop Kevin for those really encouraging words, and to all the faith leaders and people of faith who continually keep the pro-life cause in their thoughts and in their prayers. Just to remind everyone who's joining us via Zoom to use the chat facility, and also likewise with YouTube and Facebook. Keep your comments coming. We're joined by hundreds of people. We have basically people from all around Ireland. We've attendees saying hi from Kildare, Dublin, Cork, Carlow, Wicklow, Wexford, Belfast, and many other places. So thank you all so much for joining us. We're now going to go to the map of Ireland. Thank you all so much for submitting your lovely photographs from around of Ireland. And we're going to go down to Cork, to Maeve in Cork, and to Len in Limerick. And I'm joined live by both Len and Maeve now. Great to have you both with us this evening. I'm going to keep things moving along so that we stay on time. But first of all, I'll turn to you, Maeve. What are your thoughts, Maeve, this evening on this sad anniversary and the fact that the door is now open to wide-ranging abortion in Ireland?
Hi, Sheila. I think like many others on this call, I'm remembering the lives that have been lost to abortion, but also the lives that have been affected by difficult pregnancies, and also lives that have been affected by abortion decisions as well. But I also look back and remember why I got involved and why I stay involved in the pro-life movement. And I think for me, there were two major things. One was I learned about the realities of abortion. I'd been pro-life for a while, but it was learning about what actually happens in those gruesome procedures and the numbers of abortions, the effects they can have on women. That really spurred me on to get involved. And I think that's something all of us can do, is continue to raise awareness, because it's very clear from the media that there is no interest in looking at the unpleasant side of abortion. But sadly, that way, many women find out the hard way. So we need to let people know, so that we can work towards restoring the right to life of the unborn and protections in law for the unborn. But the other reason that I got involved, and what keeps me involved, is the women that find themselves in difficult pregnancy situations. And sadly, at the moment, it seems like all roads lead to abortion if you go down any of the traditional support routes. And I think that's something that all of us can work on. Whether abortion is legal or not in the future, it's really important that we look at the environment women make their choices in. So that's something I would encourage everyone on the call today to do. Make sure you know what supports are available in your area. Let the women in your life know, in your community know. And if you find a gap, see what you can do to make it a more supportive environment for women to choose life for them and for their babies.
Thanks for that, Maeve, and for your boundless enthusiasm as always. Len, I'm going to put the same question to you. What are your thoughts this evening, Len?
Well, given what happened in 2018, who would have predicted that such a strong group of TDs would be boldly standing up for life and introducing amendments at a time when everything seemed lost? They're amazing public representatives, and we should be ever thankful to them and help them in any way that we can. I think by their courage, they've shown us that everything is far from lost and that together we can and will rebuild a culture of life. I think also on this third anniversary of the referendum, let's remember that the unborn child is not a potential human life, but a unique human life with potential.
Thank you so much for that. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Len in Limerick and Maeve in Cork for joining us today. We're just going to move on to our next clip of messages from supporters around the country.
Tragically, 66% of the Irish electorate fell hook, line and sinker for the safe, legal and rare lie that was promoted by the government of the day and the mainstream media at large. There was nothing safe or rare in it for the 6,666 babies who lost their lives in the first year alone.
Isn't it shocking that over €20 million has been spent on abortion provision since the change in our law? Just imagine the possibilities if that amount of money were to be spent on support agencies or life-affirming counselling.
This year marks 3 years since the abortion referendum in Ireland. Since then, 1 in 10 babies have been aborted every year. This is a shocking statistic, and it shows that Ireland has failed to protect the most vulnerable in society, the unborn. But I'm confident in the pro-life cause. I'm confident in science that it will illuminate the truth of the preciousness of the unborn. And I'm confident in the Irish people that we will one day uphold the right to life in our beautiful country.
As we mark this anniversary, I think of all the lost potential. Children who could have made a huge contribution to the world, to their families and their communities. I've never known a parent who has ever regretted having a child. They bring so much joy to the world. But I do have hope for the future. So many young people are involved in the pro-life movement. I also think science will help tell the story, because we know already at 5 weeks a human heart is beating and a brain is growing.
I'm very encouraged by the politicians who do represent pro-life, and the fact that they were all re-elected by the people is also a point for encouragement. And there's so many good young people involved as well in the pro-life cause. So for all these reasons, I think there's many reasons to be to be happy about the future for babies and mothers.
RTE is out of control with its bias against the pro-life position, and stations like News Talk offer nothing different. Still, it's great to see some members of the Oireachtas speaking out so strongly on this issue and questioning the appropriateness of continuing to pay the licence fee. In my opinion, we need to devote a lot more attention to this particular issue.
Thank you for that. And those last comments there are from Grace Kelly in Mayo. And I think maybe many of us are thinking about this today. The issue of media bias has been mentioned there by Grace. For the past week or so, thousands of people have been signing the Pro-Life Campaign's e-card to RTE, demanding change and accountability for the shocking bias in the way they cover the abortion issue. And I'm sure we can all agree on that are tuning in this evening. If you haven't signed the e-card, please do so this evening. If you're comfortable doing it right now without losing a connection to this event, you can do so by going to prolifecampaign.ie and click on the homepage to sign the e-card. Otherwise, if you could take a note and do it later, we would really appreciate it. So that's prolifecampaign.ie. Thank you so much for that. Now we go to the next part of the event, and it is my great honour to link up with a real pro-life hero, the amazing and courageous Deputy Carol Nolan.
I want to begin by commending and thanking my 10 co-sponsors, TDs in the Dáil, who supported me and signed the bill for pain relief for babies in late-term abortions. We know for fact that this is a huge issue of concern. In fact, it's our barbaric situation. And we know that from the UCC report, which showed clearly that there were 100 late-term abortions in 2019. Some of these babies were left to die without any care, particularly palliative care, and that is wrong. It's a serious injustice, and it just shows that the lives of the most vulnerable aren't protected or valued. What we're trying to do as pro-life politicians, with all of your help, is to try change that and restore the culture of life in Ireland once again. And we need the help of everybody. Every pro-life activist in the 32 counties has a huge part to play in changing this and in reversing this barbaric and unjust, cruel and harsh law. I thank you all for what you're doing, and I'll ask you just to continue doing all you can, and we will do the same here in the Dáil along with our colleagues in the Senate. Gurb Matt Give.
Thank you, Carol Nolan. Yes, indeed, very tough times for the pro-life movement, but think how much worse we would be without politicians like Deputy Nolan. Every time I hear her speak, it really encourages me. Just to encourage you all, if you want to check out the chat and the various different platforms, we have a link to the interactive map. We will also have it up there afterwards if you want to check it out and see all the different supporters around the country. We're going to go back to that map now, and we're going to link up with Celine, who is in Donegal, and Luke, who is in Galway. Good evening to you both, guys. How are you? First of all, Celine, I'm going to start with you on today's anniversary. Many of us, are finding this a very tough day when we think back 3 years ago to the referendum. Have you some words of hope for us, and would you see hope in the future, Celine?
Hello, Sheila. I know it was a very sad day, and we were all devastated by the referendum. I know that. The lives lost and the heartbreak for the women involved. But there's always hope. There's always hope. And there's signs of it all around. Like great organisations like Gianna Care, for instance, and the work that they do. And then there's Community Connect that I volunteer with. It was started with people looking forward and giving hope. They have a great group of dedicated volunteers throughout the country, and they give wonderful practical material help to pregnant mothers and families in need. Everything from small items like nappies, wipes, to larger things like cots and buggies and everything in between, really. They reached over 600 families in the last 12 months. And the donations we receive are amazing. Everything from baby goods to financial help. There's a group of over 180 knitters all throughout the country, and they make like maternity coats and hats and blankets, and we add those to our baby boxes just to give a lovely personal touch. And it really, the mothers themselves also give great feedback about the help they receive, and they donate back as well, when they get on their feet. So it's all very uplifting and very hopeful, and there is great hope for the future. There is great hope for the future.
Thank you, Celine. It's lovely to have you join us tonight, because I know you represent many of the selfless people that are quietly working away in the background, doing real pro-life work and helping mums and expectant mums in need. So thank you for that. Luke, I'm going to turn to you. It's not going to be an easy road, Luke, back from the pro-life pro-life movement. I think everyone would agree with that. As a young person and somebody who's in college, a college student, how do you see things developing, Luke? And what changes do you think might be possible that will move things in the right direction?
Hi, Sheila. Well, I suppose no more than what Celine was saying, I do have great hope. I'm a student, as you said, in NUI Galway myself, and I suppose we're very lucky there in that we have a student society that's up and functioning and has students in it. And I think we'd had contributions from 2 of those students already this evening. So there's lots of young people involved, and it gives great hope for the future. It really does. And I sincerely believe that it's our generation, people my age, who will live to see the day where we have real positive change in a pro-life direction. And I suppose even today, when the issue was topical again, chatting to friends of mine, they're seeing the images, I suppose, of the celebration scenes outside Dublin Castle. They're learning about the fact that, as Carol Nolan was saying, about pain relief, and the fact that the unborn child prior to late-term abortion isn't offered pain relief yet. And all of these issues are just opening their eyes. Even people who voted yes are coming over. So I think if we really keep the foot on the pedal and just keep campaigning and stay involved and stay active, from a young person's perspective, there really is hope. It is doable to bring about this change, I think.
Thank you so much for that, Luke. I would love to chat with you and Celine much longer, but sadly we're on tight schedule this evening. So thank you so much for that. We're now going to slow things down for a minute, and we're going to watch a short video to give ourselves time to reflect and think a little bit more about today's anniversary. That was very fitting. We are now going to move on to the next part of the event, and we're going to watch another short clip of supporters around the country and their thoughts today.
When abortion came into Ireland in 2018, voted in by popular vote of the Irish people, I was devastated. I went into a type of mourning where I was ashamed to be Irish, and I didn't want to meet or see anybody in case they were one of the million or so who had voted yes. 3 years on, I'm still devastated, and every time I pass by a hospital or GP clinic, I think of the terrible atrocities that might be going on there on a daily basis. My huge hope for the future is that we can rebuild a pro-life culture in Ireland from the womb to the tomb. And I particularly would like to include the gift of adoption within that journey back to being pro-life, because as the adoptive mother of 2 sons, they are my greatest gift, a gift from God to myself and my husband. And I hope that any young woman who finds herself in a crisis pregnancy will be able to keep her baby after birth with all the support that she can get. But if that is not possible for her, that she will give her baby up for adoption, give it to a couple praying and hoping that one day they too may have a child that they will love, care for and nourish all the days of their life.
We had 6,666 abortions in Ireland in the past 12 months, something that I find very difficult to understand. But there is women with crisis pregnancies, and the government has failed, the state has failed in women to give them other alternatives rather than abortion. We were told by the Minister, who has to apologise to the nation, that there'd never be late-term abortions. We find out now that there is. We're misled in this country, as I said, about late-term abortions, which is a very serious issue, and we're rectifying the situation, the Rural Independent Group, but I certainly, with my colleagues, will be pushing the government to the extreme to make sure they deliver for people, for lots and thousands of women out there that find themselves in a crisis situation.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. and thank you to everybody who submitted the various different clips. As I said earlier, just due to the sheer volume of clips that we received, we couldn't show them all tonight, but we will certainly be sharing all of those afterwards on our social media platforms, so check it out. We're now going to go back to our map again, and it's really lovely to see, when you're looking at it later, you can see all the different dotted lines and dots, and they represent all the different people around the country. So we're actually going to go to Verity now in Dublin, Lisa in Wicklow, and Dr. Brendan Crowley is joining us in Cork as well. Good evening to you all. Can we see you all and hear you all?
Yep. Hello.
Hello.
Lovely to have you. Verity, I'm going to start with you. It's great to see so many young people involved in the movement. What would you say to other young people like yourself who are pro-life but haven't become active yet in the movement yet?
I think the most important thing would be to be bold and to use your courage. I would say that don't be silent and don't allow the passion that you have for this movement to be wasted, and don't allow the conviction you feel about this also to be wasted as well. Like, to use your boldness to inspire others, to encourage others, because I believe that boldness can be contagious to many people, and if you be bold, other people may use that as well to also speak up, because it's bigger than us. It's not only just about us, but also about so many other people, so many children, so many babies and mothers and women, and it's a global thing. But for us, it's about so many other people whose lives matter and whose lives are real and who are going through real situations. So it's not, we can't really afford to be silent about something so important and essential.
Thank you, Verity. And then over to you, Lisa. I know you do a lot of work to support expectant mums. What are your thoughts on this anniversary today in terms of practical supports and help for mums in need, expectant mums in need?
Yeah, well, I think what I feel really strongly about is that word that you said, support, and really making sure that support services are available to women who are in whatever situation they find themselves in, but that they have access to whatever that type of support is, whether it's practical support or counseling type support or whatever it is, that they know that there's other options. And if they've made that decision to keep their baby and to be a mum, that they feel that they're connected and linked in, and that they have the support that they need. As you said, I work a lot with providing practical support in that way, which is a massive thing for women and for families who are facing a new baby. But there's so many other areas as well that we can focus on and do better in, and the government can do better in. And it's so great to see the young people rising up and taking ownership of it as well, and reaching out to their own age group and their own communities. And I just feel really strongly that the support network really needs to be in place in so many different areas, and that we can all look at what that is around us, whatever age we are and whatever situation we're in.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for that. Brendan, I'm just going to turn to you finally. Brendan, as a GP, I'm sure you know better than many of us how stressful it has been for the last 3 years in healthcare. And for those like yourself that don't want to be involved with facilitating abortion. What are your thoughts this evening, Brendan, on this 3rd anniversary?
Yeah, like the first thing I'd like to do, Sheila, is just to thank yourselves and all the other organisers for arranging this evening. It's a fantastic evening, and I'm delighted to be part of it. We're delighted to be associated with a large group of people that have an all-embracing vision for life. And I just want to make one point, I think, really this evening, and it centres on research that came out today, actually, from the National Women's Council. Some viewers might be familiar with it, but a very important point in it, and it's that only 1 in 10 GPs across the country is participating in abortion, and that only 10 out of the 19 maternity units are involved. And I think it's important to reflect on that for a minute, because despite all the governmental and media pressure that's been applied to healthcare professionals throughout the country in order to force or attempt to force them to comply with the law, despite all the massive financial incentives that were offered to those who were willing to participate, and despite the public shaming of those who oppose the narrative, 9 out of 10 GPs around the country are saying no to this. And they're joined by obviously thousands of doctors, nurses, midwives, hospital porters, pharmacists, and many, many others. And I think it's really important to ask the question, why? And I think it's a very simple answer, really. It's because the truth is the exact same as it was this time 3 years ago. And it's that, you know, ending and deliberately ending the life of a little baby is not healthcare, it's not medicine. It never was and it never will be. So I'd like to thank everyone and to keep up the fight.
Thank you, Brendan, for that. And I'm very aware of that fact myself, living in Sligo. We have no GPs currently in Sligo providing the service. So that's something to be very grateful for. Brendan, I'd love to talk to you longer this evening. Unfortunately, we're running out of time rapidly. We're going to come to our final video clip of supporters around the country now.
Today is a sad day. It is the 3rd anniversary of the abortion referendum. Today, 18 lives were ended by the state in legal abortions, and that happens every single day of the year. It's incredible to think that one child, one individual living human being, would have its life taken from them in this state. Yet now, there's nearly 7,000 children whose lives are ended legally in this country. And we've seen really sad information come from Cork University Hospital in relation to the effect it's having on doctors. We've seen the illegal abortion in the National Maternity Hospital, where the government is sitting on its hands and doing nothing about. But there are reasons to be hopeful. We have this wonderful bill, which is in front of Leinster House now, which seeks to give pain relief to a child in a late-term abortion. And we've seen our own political movement aim to grow phenomenally just in the last 2.5 years. More and more people realise that getting active, getting focused, and getting politically engaged is the best way to make sure that we turn this around.
I know these have been very difficult and challenging times for the pro-life movement here in Ireland. And there's many in the media and indeed in politics who don't wish to speak out about what is happening under the new law. Now, more than ever, we need you to have the courage to speak up and stand up for life. I can assure you that as a member of Seanad Éireann, I will continue to speak up and stand up for life.
It's important for us to remember why we're pro-life. We're pro-life because we want to fight for women. We want to empower women to be mothers. We want to create a society where abortion isn't even a consideration, and that is something we are continuing to do now, even though abortion is legal in Ireland, and even more so now that it is. We've done so well, and it's something we continue to do, and it's something we will continue to fight for here in Ireland.
And that, friends, pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank you all so much for joining us on the various different platforms tonight. We really appreciate it. Just to remind you that we will keep the map, the interactive map, live after this event for a few minutes. Unfortunately, we weren't able to zoom in on it as much as we would have liked. It's just due to the sheer traffic on it. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And we remember finally, you know, the lives lost through abortion and the women who regret their abortion and feel betrayed by the rhetoric of choice. Thanks to everyone for joining this evening. We look forward to seeing you soon again, hopefully in person. Good night and God bless.